All right. I'm gonna go through some of these notes very quickly. I don't know how meaningful they are. I'm not going to expound on them very much. There exists infinite distractions as long as our brain wants to find one. Do you have something you want enough that prevents you from seeking one? Assuming the answer is no, then there's not really much point in being upset about being distracted. The primary focus must be to understand what you are being distracted from. Focus contributes more to happiness than the activity. Doing something you like while distracted isn't as beneficial as doing something you don't like that much while focused. For something to be easy, you must have done something more difficult before, or to have done that many times. Anger is a desire to take action. Pause and ask what action you should take. You don't run because you are scared. You are scared because you are about to run. A massive fool is closer to a massive genius than someone who is normal. Because you must do extreme things to be close to being a massive genius. Think about entrepreneurs. Maybe they do things that you think are foolish, but out of the ones who succeed in and being viewed as a massive genius, they are taken from the pool of massive fools. People that are viewed as massive fools, of course. Trauma is not the truth. That is to say, something that you consider to be a trauma of the past has nothing to do with what is true today. If you are... I'm gonna skip. Drama is also not the truth. Bad habits are like snooze buttons. Players and quests. What is this note? Players. When you have a quest in real life, it is to seek answers to questions. What if you were living your life over and over again and your memories were reset? So imagine you were living in a time loop from the time you are born to the time you are dead. This chunk of reality, but your memories are reset every time. Would anything be different every single time? No, they wouldn't be. Timers and boundaries you set should not be a restriction for when you have to stop, but a minimum before you are allowed to stop. I'm not too sure about this one. I'm gonna skip this. The more things you have, the more things have you. Items you don't want to let go of. Kids, commitments, etc. Games you log in daily that you don't quit. Books you want to read but do not. Dreams you hold on to but never pursue. The cost of owning or keeping things. So, to have things around that you keep and you maintain is in itself a cost. So to let go of things that you have but don't need will actually make you richer because it takes away, it creates more space in your life, whether it's physical space, whether it's head space and mental space in terms of what you think about. If you uninstall a game that you think about frequently, then now you stop thinking about it. And you get that extra headspace and time. Physical space, filing taxes, time of keeping up with the series. So for example, if you drop a series that you maybe read or watched consistently, but you drop the series, now you don't spend that time keeping up with it. So the more the things you let go of, the more you have. What you have costs you. So to own these things, they can be beliefs, they can be something that occupies attention. It can be like an itch that you never scratch, or you can't finish scratching, and this can be like a metaphorical itch, for example. And so the full sentence is, what you have costs you, and most of what you have won't be missed if you stopped having them. Elliot's surgery made him incapable of making decisions, and his life fell apart after removing a tumor because he became emotionless. Okay, I did mention this. I know that for a fact. It was a story about someone who was unable to make decisions after removing the part of his brain that had a tumor, which was associated with emotions. The idea that our rational self is the driver for decisions, the one capable of good decisions, and that emotions are only a hindrance is wrong. The expansion of the neocortex didn't just make us more rational, intelligent, and superior. Feelings are only data packets. The purpose of rational thoughts is to make personal adjustments to the data. Like an AI prompter. Imagine that you have an AI that is very efficient and has a lot of performs many tasks very quickly, and you don't really know a lot of what's going on, but you can make prompts. You can go, can you give me something like this? And sometimes the AI isn't very precise. Maybe the AI doesn't really understand what you want very well, or can't perform the task very well. Now maybe this isn't true in the future, but the point is, it's like an AI prompter. The neocortex is like the prompter, and your body and the emotional parts are like the driver and the AI, the one that performs all of the tasks. Dopamine works because it incentivizes behavior that are meant to be predictive of getting a reward soon, rather than a reward for the goal. Dopamine predicts a reward and gets you to move to obtain it. This prediction can create a compulsion. When a reward doesn't follow the prediction, it sends an oh shit message. When you see something you see every day, and your body notices it's slightly off, but you can't quite point out why, you get that discomfort and sometimes a small sense of panic, maybe, when you start maybe wondering if you're being followed, for example, in horror movies. Because you feel that something is off. Because you predict something and it doesn't follow, you get this little, oh shit, something's wrong. It means something seriously wrong. You can get a sense of panic. Later on, it also stores this difference as data to remember and internalize the lesson, updating the predictive function. So for example, maybe you go, okay, well, now I have this new piece of data which says, okay, at this time, on this day, something makes me uncomfortable here. So I'm going to avoid this in the future, as an example. Maybe it's something as simple as, I played Tree Minder or Camel because I was expecting a very poggers continuation for the game, and then my opponent played something that made me go, okay, oh shit, that makes me that it is not going the way I want. I get this little bit of panic because my predicted reward of clapping this guy's cheeks did not follow, so now I panic and update my predictive mechanism, and maybe I'll play a different card in this situation in the future. When this part of the brain is removed, the part with the feelings, we lose our ability to predict reward and punishment. And so, yeah. So for example, monkeys with joysticks and food pellets. So what they did was they tested monkeys that had this part of the brain and monkeys that didn't. So the monkeys that did, for example, they had a joystick which if you move the joystick in I don't know, let's say to the left, it would give you a 60% chance of giving you a food pellet or something. And then, and then the ones who had that part of the brain, they would eventually learn to always do it the same way. And then the ones who didn't never learned, basically. Something like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but something like that. The point is that your feelings figure out the problem and then create that predictive ability, even if you don't consciously understand it. When the mind is deprived of the emotional pain from losing, it will never figure out how to win. The rats overdosing on dopamine was too busy feeling good to care about survival-related activities like food and water. So they tested some rats that were overdosed on dopamine, and they just died because they didn't bother going to get food anymore. Okay. Worldview is based on what comes first. For example, let's say I'm going to present you two scenarios. Let's say you have two different lives in two different worlds in two different time periods. And I said, okay, I'm going to take you right now, which I don't know if you know the genre of isekai, but basically you get reincarnated into a different world with your memories. And you go, okay, well, when you picture this scenario, you imagine yourself as having your current belief system. And now let's say these are two different lives. Let's imagine this scenario differently. Let's say that instead of reincarnating, in fact, this is a life you experience in the future. And what happens is that at a certain age, 10 years old in your future lifetime, you awaken the memories that you have now. And so, but from your perspective, as you awaken the memories, because what you're experiencing right now is the experiencing of the memories, the return of the memories during this period. So let's say there's a single hour or like 10 hours where they go to sleep, and for these 10 hours you are experiencing your past life to receive these memories. And right now you're in those 10 hours. And then, from your experience, it feels like you reincarnated. And you just spawned in that person's memory, and then you inherit their memories after. So, because your current memories are closer to you right now. And now when you're presented with this scenario, you believe, okay, well, I am me, and I will now soon have the memories of this other person, but I will have my decision-making will be based on who I am now. My belief system will be based on who I am now. My morals will be based on who I am now, but I'll have extra memories. Okay. Now, what if I said, today, when you go to sleep, you're going to be injected with memories. You're going to, over those 10 hours, you're going to experience the lifetime of someone else, of someone you don't know, and now you'll have the memories of two people. This is technically the exact same scenario, but what do you believe? What do you feel based on this scenario? You feel, I'm going to have my current beliefs. I'm going to be who I am today. I'm going to think the way I do today. I'm going to make actions based on who I am today, but I'm going to have the memories of two people. So now take a look at this. So in both cases, there is a person with his memories. He goes to sleep, inherits the memories of someone else, and then now it's as if there's two people in one mind, but one person is going to dominate the decision making because it's one person with two memories. So obviously there's going to be one personality at the end. And whether you believe you are the person that owns the memories or the person that receives the memories, you feel that you will be the one in control. And that it is your beliefs that are going to be the one that dictate your feelings. Because you cannot conceive that you and your experience can be overwritten. This is the sense of self. This is similar to the ego, the end of history, illusion, which I've mentioned before, which is basically to say how much, if I ask you how much you've changed in the past 10 years, you say a lot. And if I say how much you expect to change in the next 10 years, you expect that to be less. If I ask you, would you trade your life for someone else's, where you would trade your brain, the way you would think like that person, you would become that person in every single aspect, you would probably say no. This is the sense of individualism, and it's even tied to freedom and sovereignty, that we feel repulsed by the idea that it could be lost. What was the original quote that made me say this? Worldview is based on what comes first, is the original note. Okay. The banks that believed the scale was simply not big enough. I'm not too sure what to make of this note, so I'm not going to mention it. But it's basically a story of someone who was in this really poor area. He noticed a bunch of people who were working for pennies, where if they had a small loan of like 20 cents or to $1, they could be tripling their income. So, for example, there was someone who was making these very nice bamboo chairs, as told in the story. And they asked, how long does it take you to make a chair? And they said, a day. And then they asked, how much do you make from a chair? And they say 20 pence or 20 or whatever, something like that. And then they asked, okay, how much does it cost? And they say 2 pence. And they say, why do you work so much for so little? Or it was like 10 pence or something. And so they said, why do you work so much for so little money? And they said, well, because there's a merchant the person who sells me the materials, I don't have the money to buy the materials. So they give me the materials, and in exchange, or I guess it was, so they give me the materials for free with the condition that I can only sell the chairs to them at a fixed price of 20 pence. And so he was like, okay, well, how much would it cost for you to buy the materials yourself? And they said, I don't know, 2 pence. And they didn't have that, or something like some ridiculous story. And when I say ridiculous, I mean the story was ridiculous because they required such a ridiculously small amount of money to make more money. And so he was like, well, this is crazy. What if I just loaned you that money or something? Basically, this is a rough idea of the story. And he was like, I can't believe this is happening. So he went around the neighborhood. This was a professor, I believe. So it was a professor that was teaching economics in this really poor area. And after school, he walked around and he couldn't believe what he was seeing. And he realized that what he taught couldn't help these people, because it was like he's teaching the theory of economics, and there's people out here that takes they just can't they don't have access to the ability to make use of the information. So here he realized that to help them, all he needed was to be able to give them a small loan. So what he did was he took a student with him and went, okay, we're gonna go and find all of the people in this area that have a situation like this, where if we just loaned them a small amount of money, they would be able to make more money over time, or like something like that. Basically something like this, with similar situations to this person. So they went and they added up. It was like a total of like 100 different people like this, and in total, they only needed $27. And so he was like, okay, well, that's ridiculous. I am going to loan these people the $27. It was like a bank, right? He started a loaning bank basically for them. He talked to the banks, and they were like, you can't do this. These people are too poor. They'll never pay the money back. So he started this bank. It wasn't that official. It wasn't like chains, but he started this bank. He loaned out the money, and he got the money back. And the banks were like, okay, well, that's because the time is too short. If the time goes on long enough, or if you lend to more people, then you'll lose the money. It'll never work. So he decided to prove them wrong. He started more branches in more villages and over a longer period of time, and the return rate for the loans were like 99%. It was like higher than any bank. And the other bank still didn't believe that the scale's not big enough. So he kept opening branches, and it's apparently, but at the time of the book was being written, it was like $1 billion bank. It was a non-profit organization as well, or something. It was crazy, but basically they disproved the banks. And the point is, the banks could, or not the banks, the managers that he talked to at the banks couldn't accept the proposition that went against their previously existing worldview. Okay. Okay. I thought I blitzed out a bunch really fast, but it turns out 20 minutes have already passed. So I'm gonna stop here so I can take off my shirt. It's freaking hot.